Ikalima po ng Disyembre, naku, pambihira talaga, no? Saan napunta ang taong 2020, ha? 20 araw na lamang bago sumapit ang Pasko. Kaya po kami dito sa Power Play, bumabati ng isang Merry Christmas! Napakaaga pero naku, napakabilis din po ng panahon. Kaya naman po sana ay nasa mabuti kayong kalagayan at makibahagi kayo sa amin ngayong maaga pong ito. Gawin niyo po kaming almusal. Ang Power and Play, hatid sa inyo ng Big Boss Cement, Big Boss sa Tatag, Big Boss sa Tibay, at ng Cherry Loom. Ang yerong may aluminum. Ako po si Noli Iyala, bumabati sa inyo lahat. Kahapon mababa ang ating mga kaso ng COVID. Tayo naman ay nagpapasalamat sa Panginoon na talagang kahit papano naiibsan na po ang mga kaso. Sana nga magtuloy-tuloy na pero wag po tayo makakalimot na naanda pa rin ang coronavirus. Huwag po tayo magpapabaya. Face mask, face shield, hugas ng kamay, social distancing, at kung kaya namang iwasan, huwag na muna masyadong lumabas. Although ngayon, napaka-traffic na. Ang sobrang traffic na. Talagang parang bumabalik na po yung dating buhay natin dito sa Kalakang, Maynila, lalong-lalo na. Pinag-uusapan niyang sobrang traffic. Talaga namang sobrang traffic din sa dami ng mga gustong magkomentaryo doon sa laro ng PBA Finals. Naku po, kahapon, nagbanta ang Ginebra na sana'y virtually tatapusin na yung Philippine Cup Finals. Pero hindi po ginawa yan, hindi po nagawa dahil ang talk and text pang Giga ay iba ang plano. Gusto pang manatili ng mas matagal pa dyan sa bubble. Kaya po sila ay nagwagi kahapon sa Game 3 ng Philippine Cup Finals. Tinambakan nila ang Barangay Ginebra Kings ng 21 puntos to cut the series lead to 2-1. Napakaganda. Akala natin tapos na to dahil sa magandang nilalaro ng Ginebra pero hindi pa bibigay ang token text. Lalong-lalo na maganda ang ipinakita ni Roger Pogoy, ni Jason Castro at finally si Troy Rosario. So, abangan po natin ang marami pang kabanata. Mamaya makakausap natin dalawa sa players ng Barangay Ginebra, mga bayani ng Game 1 and 2 victory ng Ginebra. Si Arvin Tolentino at si Aljon Mariano. Abangan nyo po mamaya yan. Isa pang ating tinututukan na balita, of course, yung pagpanalo po ng Gilas Pilipinas. Doon po sa Bahrain, yung Manama Bahrain Bubble, kung saan ito po ang FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers. Nagwagi ang Pilipinas, 2 laro laban sa Thailand. At mamaya po makakapanayam din natin ang ilang players ng Gilas Pilipinas, si Dwight Ramos at William Navarro at si Kemar Carino. Mga batang players po ng Gilas na nagpakitang Gilas doon po sa Bahrain at sila po ay nagbigay ng muli ng karangalan sa ating bansa. At makakausap din po natin mamaya, walang iba kundi ang head coach ng ng program director ng SVP at head coach ng Ateneo. Kasama rin po siya sa Bahrain, si Coach Tab Baldwin. Mamaya po yan, abangan nyo yan. Of course, ang isang lumabas na balita recently, yung po mga bagong desisyon o patakaran na inalabas ng PBA. Lalong-lalo na po yung kanilang magiging schedule sa susunod na taon. Ang PBA po ay magsisimula next season April 9. So meron na po silang schedule April 9. Yan po ang schedule ng PBA. At ang draft nila ay sa Marso 14. Yung po mga mga player na lalabas. Pero meron po silang isang nilabas na mga polisiya at ito patungkol sa mga season awards na dapat ay ibinibigay tuwing pagtapos po ng isang season. Ang isa po nilang naging desisyon ay ngayon pong taon na to, dahil nga po napaiksi ang season ng PBA, naglaro lamang ng isang komperensya dyan sa loob ng bubble sa Clark, sila po ay nagbigay ng desisyon na wala daw pong hihirangin na most valuable player. Imbes o bagkos ang kanilang hihirangin na lamang ngayon ay best player of the conference. Wala pong MVP. So yung pong streak, yung tuloy-tuloy na kapanalo ni Junmar Fajardo na 6 na sunod na MVP ay hindi pa napuputol dahil dito sa desisyon na to. So ang ating pong pupulsahan ngayong pong araw na ito, mga kapatid, ito pulsuhan lamang natin ito, sang-ayon ba kayo sa desisyon ng PBA na walang hihiranging MVP ngayong season bagkus ay best player of the conference lamang? Ulitin ko po yan Sang-ayon ba kayo na walang hihiranging PBA MVP ngayong season imbes ay BPC lamang ang ating itatawag sa kanya? Kung gusto niyo po makilahok, mag-text lamang sa aming hotline 0949-691-4956 o di kaya sa aming Facebook page Power and Play with Noli Iyala o sa Facebook page ng Radyo 5 92.3 News FM. Binabati po natin lahat ng mga nakikinig sa atin sa Radyo 5, siyempre, and of course sa lahat po ng mga nanood sa 1PH at Signal TV. We are also being streamed live via Facebook and of course sa Noli Iyala YouTube channel. So marami po tayong tatalakayin ngayong umagang ito at kagad simulan na kagad natin. Ngayong araw po ito, wala tayong fasting dahil meron po tayong special mga panauhin at sisimulan na kagad natin dito sa ating unang panayam po. Nung isang araw, nakausap po natin ang UAAP tungkol sa kanilang mga developments, mga plano at mga maliliit pong mga bagay tungkol sa mga tanong ng mga fans tungkol sa UAAP. Ngayon po umagang to, tayo naman ay mapalad na makakasama natin ang chairman ng NCAA Season 96 Management Committee mula sa Colegio de San Juan de Latran. Isa pong kaibigan ko, nakasama ko ito sa SBP board noon pa po. Walang iba kung hindi ang chairman po ng NCAA for Season 96, si Father Vic Calvo. Magandang Father Vic!
Good morning, Com Noli, and sa inyong mga fans at viewers.
Thank you so much for joining us. Alam ko na very busy ka at unang-una, malapit na ang Pasko. Alam ko na marami rin paghahanda. And of course, ang paghahanda ng NCAA. So let me go straight to the point, Father Vic. Unang-una, alam natin na medyo dahil dito sa pandemya ito, lahat tayo ay nakenga ang mga plano. So, ano ba, Father Vic, ang latest tungkol sa mga plano for a restart ng NCAA for Season 96? Nagbigay kayo ng statement last November na no vaccine, no practices pa. Ganyan pa rin po ba ang polisiya ng NCAA, Father Vic?
It remains the same because we have to, of course, follow the IATF protocols and CHED and DepEd guidelines. But in our meeting yesterday, we have made some adjustments, and we're forming a committee for studying the bubble concept na nakita naman natin sa PBA very successful, and of course in other sports in other countries. At for example, yung 3x3 na tingin ko pwedeng gawin. And nag-voting kami ng committee for online events to study the possibility na ipupurso namin by hook or by crook yung Season 96.
Okay. So Father Vic, liwanagin ko lang yan. So una-una yung sabi mo na tungkol sa bubble, pinag-aaralan na ngayon ng NCAA itong bubble. Ang ibig bang sabihin nito, yung konsepto, well, just on a broad strokes, yung mga lalahok sa NCAA na mga student athletes ay posibleng mailagay sa isang lugar lamang para maglaro ng competitions among themselves. Is that the principle or the picture or the image that you are painting, Father Vic?
Yes. Pero merong mga modification. For example, because of the budget constraint, pwedeng school-based. For example, sa
Ah,
Intramuros, you have Mapua sa Lyceum, magkalapit lang yan eh. So,
correct.
yung classrooms bakante, yung Lyceum merong hotel, yung court dalawa. So, pwedeng gawin doon. For example, sa San Beda, Arellano, and Ayak, San Sebastian, magkakalapit din yan, pwedeng gawin doon na naka-school base siya sa school yung mga players at i-apply ho natin doon yung bubble principle. So,
Wow.
more or less ganun yung idea.
Oo, maganda yan, Father Vic, that at least gumagalaw at may pagkakataong talagang patuloy ang mga laro. Now, Father Vic, tuloy pa rin ba yung plano ninyo na 4 lamang na mandatory sports ang ilalaro? Of course, nabanggit mo yung mga online sports at 3x3. But outside of that, 4 lamang pa rin ba ang ipagpapatuloy ng NCAA Season 96?
Yes, yung swimming and track and field, wala namang problem yun kasi how many days lang yun eh. Mukhang madaling gawin yun eh. We're also contemplating of yung SEA Games model, everything in just 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So whatever is, I believe na practical and foremost yung consideration na namin, yung safety ng student athletes.
Alright. Obviously, may mga ibang sports and some athletes na hindi makakapaglaro dahil kung iilan lamang ang mga sports and yung iba ay maaaring hindi makapaglaro. Paano maapektuhan, Father Vic, ang kanilang eligibility? Yung mga players na dapat ay maglalaro ngayon or tapos na ang kanilang playing year sa NCAA, ito ba ay maapektuhan ng desisyon na hindi laruin yung kanilang mga disciplines this year?
Yeah, may adjustment naman. We add 1 year dun sa mga hindi na-consume
Okay.
yung playing years.
So, in other words, pwede pa. Kung
Pwede
hindi
pa,
ako
pwede
nakapaglaro,
pa.
halimbawa ng football, pwede pang laruin yan next year kung kahit na mag-graduate na ako, parang ganon.
Doon sa may graduation, meron lang konting problema pero we have to fix it kasi nasa rules eh. Pero yung principle ngayon is the relaxation of the rules because of what happened for this
Okay.
season and next season.
Okay. Paano ang pinagpaplanuhan ninyong testing, Father Vic? Meron ba kayong gagawing testing dyan sa loob ng bubble just in case matuloy yan?
Yes, of course, we will follow all the guidelines and protocols ng IATF. Lahat ng mayroon naman kaming copy. Kahit papaano, we asked the PBA to provide us with the copy how they did in the bubble. So more or less, nakalatag naman. I'll wait for the recommendation of the NCAA committee regarding the bubble concept. Maybe next week or next week. Matagal-tagal pa naman eh. We can do it next year pa naman.
Ang schedule niyo, Father, is sa mga second quarter pa ba yan ng susunod na taon, yung simula ng season?
Correct. Mga ganun na rin.
Okay. In terms of the online sports, ano mga tinitingnan ninyo, Father? Alam natin, may mga online karate, may mga online chess. Anong naiisip ng management committee, Father Vic?
Sa ngayon, yung confirm ba yung chess and of course, we have to identify pa yung others. Pero depende nga dun sa study ng committee na isasubmit sa akin in next week or in a couple of weeks. And of course, dun din sa ating media partner. How do we do that?
All right. Let's go to another topic, Father Vic, yung special guest license ng na ang Games and Amusement Board ay ngayon pumapayag na sa special guest license para sa mga amateur, sabihin na natin hindi professional dahil mahirap sabihin talaga yung amateur, pero hindi professional players na makapaglaro sa ilang mga pro leagues. Ano po posisyon dito ng NCAA Management Committee, Father Vic?
We allowed and of course with some strict procedures regarding the matter, because in NCAA we believe in the concept of amateurism as much as possible. But let us be realistic na even NCAA and other collegiate sports have some professional characteristics. So times have changed. Before, they are not professional, and yung mga players natin doon ay naglalaro na, may existing contract. So alam mo yung status nag-change. Pero we have to adjust, sabi ko nga, times change, and we have to reconsider our position regarding this matter. So for us, upon the careful analysis of the NCAA, may pros and cons, it can be more helpful than bad for us as an association.
Okay, so in other words, maglalabas po kayo ng mga regulations, ng mga alituntunin in relation to this. Will one of those be, ang isang consideration ba, Father, is yung pagtanggap ng bayad? Yan ba ay papayagan even as a special guest player, let's say, for in a pro league? Or yan ba ay strictly, as you said, hindi nyo gagawin dahil you are protecting amateurism?
Yeah, we have to be clear about that na hindi magkaroon ng kontrata na merong nag-appear doon na sa form of salary or payment. Maybe we can make some adjustments dun sa formulation ng contract.
Okay. Well, alam naman natin yan na kadalasan yan ay ginagawang parang student assistance or educational loan or kaya po yan ay nakakatulong din sa ating mga student athletes. Lalong-lalo na yung mga talagang on scholarship para sa ating mga eskwelahan. Father, let me go to a topic that is very close to the hearts of the Filipinos. Ito pong suporta sa Gilas Pilipinas. Alam natin that recently naglaro ang dalawang tiga NCAA, no? Si Calvin Oftana and of course si K. Mark Carino sa Gilas Pilipinas mula sa San Beda University. Ano po ang opisyal na polisiya ng NCAA sa pagsuporta sa Gilas? Pagpapatuloy ba rin pa ho ang pagpahiram just in case humingi uli ang ating national team na mga manlalaro mula sa NCAA?
Yeah, of course. Yun naman yung purpose natin sa grassroots, to help the Philippine sports. And of course, country yan eh. So I don't think na in the past years that I've been involved in NCAA na we're not supporting it. In fact, kahit na buong team ko, bibigay ko sa Gilas kung pwede lang.
Very good. Kayo pa naman, kampiyon. Kayo pa naman ang champion. Kaya pwede talagang ibigay. Well, that's very good to hear. No? And we certainly hope na patuloy na kumuha ang SPP ng mga manlalaro mula sa NCAA because ang dami-dami pang mga players dyan na pwedeng hugutin. Finally, alam ko na you have a new coverer. And this is of course another channel, another network, and dito alam mo naman sa sports ganyan talaga. I would like first of all to congratulate you on getting a new coverer. Meron kayong bagong coverage. Ano po naging factors sa pagpili sa GMA as your new coverer for the NCAA, Father Vic?
Okay. Dapat dito kami mahirap kasi magpili ng parehong bagay na parehong maganda eh. So it took the NCAA and policy board to decide whom to get. At the end of the day, konting difference lang naman, but we really reading from the statement of the policy board during the meeting. Number one kasi yung branding, it's you're a favorite child kasi you're the only child. So yung focus na yung branding na the first athletic association in the Philippines deserves to be in the number one network in the Philippines. And number two, yung sinabi mismo ng may-ari ni Atty. Gozon, I think that's the most important part for me. After the presentation, yung may-ari na mismo nagsabi, and he's very sincere and serious about this. I can, of course, yung iba nabasa ni may-ari na nagsabi sa'yo nito eh. Sabi niya, we believe that we have more to offer and we believe we can do more. And this is not to denigrate anybody else. We believe we can do more as we go along. Ako na nagsasabi sa inyo, and that is it. And I have never gone back on my word since I was a boy. So, yung assurance ng may-ari, tingin ko yun yung isa ding malaking factor. And of course, yung number 3, yung sharing ng profit sharing dun sa mga na hindi namin nakukuha dati.
Well, alam niyo, Father, talaga pong marami naman sports properties that will go around, and obviously masaya tayo dahil lahat ng mga fans ngayon makakapanood uli ng NCAA. Pero dito po sa ating network sa TV5, kahit na marami po kaming anak dito, lahat po yan paborito namin. Kaya I'm sure one of the someday tayo ay makikita-kita rin dito po sa ating network. But nonetheless, we congratulate the NCAA and we certainly wish you all the best. Dahil yan lang naman ang importante, makapanood uli ang mga laro ng NCAA. Father Vic, maraming salamat sa panahon mo ngayong umagang to.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you. Parang gumapo ka pa rin.
Wala na, maputi na buhok natin, Father Vic, mula sa ating mga panahon sa SBP. Good luck, Father Vic.
Sige, thank you. Okay.
Maraming salamat. Yan po mga kaibigan, si Father Vic Calvo, ang chairman ng Management Committee ng Season 96 ng NCAA na ika nga ay nagpaplano na po na muling magbalik. Alright, pinag-uusapan natin ang larangan po ng collegiate sports. Well, so ang susunod po natin makakapanayam ay nasa collegiate basketball din. Pero ito po hindi dito sa ating bansa. Ang ating po magiging guest ngayon ay naglalaro sa Duke University Blue Devils. Alam niyo ba kung ano yung Duke University? Ito ang isa sa pinakamagandang programa mula sa NCAA, mula sa basketball ng Amerika. They play in the Atlantic Conference, ACC. Sila po ay ilang beses nang nagkampiyon doon sa kanilang komperensyang ACC. Pero sa NCAA ng Amerika, 2 beses na ho sila nagra-runner-up. They became runner-up, but that was all the way back in 2006 in women's basketball. Men's basketball, they have dominated the NCAA just like the University of Kentucky. And today, we're very happy to have with us the first Filipino-American rookie to start for Duke University. At siya po ay ating makakapanayam ngayon. And kikilalanin po natin, walang iba kung hindi si Vanessa Jesus from Duke University. Hi, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, first of all, congratulations not only for becoming the first Phil-Am, the first rookie to start in a collegiate basketball game for Duke, but also for your fantastic performance in your first 2 games. Was it all that you dreamed about, Vanessa?
Yeah, playing college basketball is definitely something I've always dreamed about since I was little. And just finally playing a game of basketball and through everything that's been going on with COVID, it was unbelievable and an experience I'll never forget. Just being on the court with my teammates and my coaches and just the whole thing, even though it's, different with not having fans, it's still an amazing experience. I'm so grateful for all of it.
We're very interested in the way things have panned out for you, and obviously I'm going to get to that. But before that, we want to know a little bit about you. A lot of Filipinos have been reading about your feat. You had a terrific game against Western California the other day. You played so well in your debut in Longwood. Where did you learn basketball, and who influenced you to play the sport?
Yeah, growing up, my family has always taught me how big basketball is for our culture, being Filipino. And my dad was the first one who really just showed me, the love of basketball. So when I was young, he would take me to the park and we just shoot around, and I just knew that was definitely the sport for me, and that's where my love came from. And then also in my family, my aunt, she played college basketball at Oberlin, and my cousin, he also played high school basketball. So basketball has always been something in our family, watching it and just loving it. So just from there, it grew on to me.
Have you ever been to the Philippines? Have you ever watched Philippine basketball?
I've been to the Philippines, yes, when I was younger, and I've seen a little bit of basketball, but it's been a while for me.
Hmm. And growing up, who were your idols in terms of the sport?
Yeah, definitely. I would say Sue Bird because just her amazing passing skills and how she used the floor and being a point guard, like, as myself as a point guard, that's something and someone I really looked up to. And also Kobe Bryant, his mentality as a player and as a competitor, it's something I've never seen before in anybody. And just how
Mhm.
much I can learn from him was something that really inspired me to keep working and continue my love for basketball.
Those are big names that you're mentioning. Sue Bird, the legend, of course, and of course the late Kobe Bryant, who all Filipinos love. Um, did your parents actually play the sport, or aside from, of course, you mentioned your aunt and your cousin? Were your parents in any kind of sport, or were they also supporting you in this?
Yeah, I remember my mom was telling me when she was younger, she was in cheerleading, and my dad said he used to play a little bit at the park, but none of them played it as serious as I take it. But through all of it, they've always supported me and tried to keep pushing me to be my best, and I love them for that. I'm just so happy how far I've come so far.
All right. Well, what is amazing that I've read so far is, and what I have seen, is your sense of loyalty. It's very interesting that you had committed to Duke with a coach that left eventually, and that was, of course, taken over by your new coach, Kara Lawson. But many of your supposed to be teammates had decommitted from the Duke University program. Why did you choose Duke? And of course, does this say a lot about your character, about how you take things so seriously, and how you put all that loyalty into one thing?
Yeah, for myself, when deciding where I wanted to go to college, basketball and academics was a huge thing for me. And
Hmm.
as Duke, for academically, they're one of the top schools in the country, and it was a no-brainer for me wanting to go there because for me, I wanted to pursue a career in medicine currently, and that's what I'm studying. So, having that excellence in academics was a very important thing for myself. And then on the basketball side, I actually grew up. When I was younger, I was coached by Chelsea Gray, who played point guard at Duke University, and just learning from her at a young age, I saw how much she's learned at Duke and seeing her now in the WNBA and all her accolades further on, it just showed me how much I could grow coming here and how much they love basketball like myself. So just having that balance was a huge thing for me because they're one of the two most important things for myself. And other than that, I would say also just how much Duke supports basketball and the sisterhood there. Duke, the history and legacy of Duke women's basketball goes a long way, and I've seen all the amazing things they've done, and all support from the coaches to all the staffs to the fans, and that's something I really loved and was looking forward to when deciding to come to Duke. So that was a huge thing for me. And then in the end, me deciding to stay at Duke, even though the coaching change happened, I knew that Duke would definitely find someone great because of just how great the program is and the school overall. And I'm just so lucky. I never thought I'd be coached by one of the greatest, point guards, Kara Lawson, and I'm just grateful for the whole experience and just looking forward to what's to come.
She's mentioned that Carol Lawson, of course, has mentioned that eventually you will learn about her, and she will learn about you. And so far, things have really worked out well. How are you surprised that you're getting these many minutes under Coach Kara and these many touches, starting out as the starting point guard for Duke University at this point?
Yeah, coming in, I just knew as a freshman I would have to work every day. And Coach Kara told us the first day, if you want whatever minutes you want or you want to gain whatever, you have to put in the work in. And if you earn it, you earn it. So I just came in the beginning, putting in the work and just minding my own thing, just getting better each day. And I think, it's shown and the improvements are there. And I'm just going to keep working and, help the team as best as I can. And if coach thinks that's me playing, then I'll just do that. And whatever role it's for me, I'm just here to do it.
How has the transition been so far? You mentioned that you are taking a pre-med course at Duke, uh, coming from the West, going, of course, going to North Carolina. How has your transition from high school to college been, and what has helped you settle down?
Yeah, it was definitely tough at first moving across the country from my family. But for one, I actually have family in Georgia. Some of my aunts live here, so I have a little family in the East Coast, which was really helpful. And also my cousin, Nikki, she attends the PA school at Duke. So having a little family close by really helped with the transition because I knew I'm going to be living by myself and experiencing things on my own. But always having that core family was important. And just moving to college, it's definitely a huge change from high school. I would say you're definitely more busy, a lot of more responsibilities need to take, and also time management is huge. But I think overall, I've been learning and getting better at all these things, just taking it day by day and learning through it as I go. And so far, I think I've done a pretty good job.
What can you say about your game, Vanessa? If you are to give a comp, who would you compare your game with? And at the same time, what are your strengths as a player? What do you like to do on the court, and how do you treat, being the point guard of a team?
Yeah, I definitely say one of my strengths is just the understanding of basketball. I think I love basketball and I've been watching it my whole life. Just the little things and different reads, I would say, is a huge part of my game. And a player that I really look up to is Chris Paul, him being a point guard and just how patient and controlled he is and making reads and different decisions on the court is something that I hope to grow in and become better at. So I would say those are huge strengths for myself, and I hope just to continue with that and getting better at it overall.
You talking about Chris Paul. Well, your numbers in your first two games were very, very similar to the way Chris Paul plays. You did not only score, you had rebounds. In fact, you had 7 rebounds in your second game. You're not very tall, but clearly you have the skills to mix it up with the big boys. Big girls rather? How do you find your team right now? What are your chances, at least in the conference? And who are your best friends with on the team right now?
Yeah, I would say right now I'm pretty close with all my teammates. I think it's important to get to know all your teammates because the best teams are the teams that work together and have the best chemistry. I think that's a huge thing that to make a successful team. And just having all the time I spent with my teammates, especially with quarantine, I can't go out as often, so I've been spending most of the time with them. So I would just say all of them, honestly, I love all of them. And I'm so grateful to have an amazing team and a group that has helped me, being the only freshman, it was a little tough, but they've accepted me and helped me through this transition and also my coaches. And I think so far, I just can't wait to see what's to come.
Is it strange playing without any fans in the gym?
Yeah, I would say fans are a huge part of basketball and just the atmosphere of having fans. It's a definitely huge change from coming from high school where we also had a lot of fans there that attended. But I would say we make it as fun as we can. My teammates on the bench are cheering. They have little sounds in the gyms, and
Nice.
I'm just so glad to be able to play basketball overall, and just grateful to even get the chance to play.
The big interest, of course, here in the Philippines is the possibility of you joining the national team, Gilas Pilipinas Women's. First of all, what do you know about the program? And secondly, are you are you interested to one day don the colors of the Philippines?
Yeah, I've talked to Coach Pat Aquino. He talked to me a little bit and introduced me a little bit about himself and the whole program and everything. And honestly, just hearing everybody talk about considering myself part of it, it's just an honor to be even considered when that day comes. But I think just currently right now, I'm just focused on for the next game and just getting better today because I think things can change at any moment. And there's so much more I have to do. I haven't done anything. There's so much more I have to improve for myself. And just focusing on being the best I can right now is a huge thing for myself. Just so the possibilities in the future could even happen. So I would just definitely say that.
Well, obviously, possibilities are big. But also, we have to deal with reality, and I guess the reality is you're playing right now in the NCAA and of course in Duke. Let me just ask you: are there any Duke policies about playing for a national team? Is this allowed? And also with respect to the NCAA, there.
I actually don't really know myself. I haven't really thought much about like the future because I'm just my first year. I'm just really just trying to get through it, and this whole new transition of playing college basketball is different for me, and it's been hard. But I'm not really sure for myself. I'm just trying to get
All
through
right.
each year. Mhm.
But if ever that time comes, what would it mean for you to play for the Philippines as a part of the national team? Does that even come into play in your conversations with your family?
Yeah, honestly, it's honestly an honor. I just hope to be an inspiration for all, Filipino American little girls who are dreaming of playing basketball and who have hopes and dreams of just pursuing this kind of career. I always just want to, be the best person I can be and hopefully influence people just to know that whatever they want to do in life, that they can do it and just work hard through whatever because no one can tell you no. And just being the best role model I can be is a huge thing I want to be too.
There are so many Phil-Am ladies, girls that are now doing well. I just read of an athlete in Princeton playing in volleyball, and she's also a Phil-Am. Your stint with Duke obviously further supports and props up the possibilities for Phil-Am players all over the United States. Do you take this as a big challenge as well as a responsibility, and does this add pressure to you?
I would say it doesn't really add pressure to myself because I feel like if I just play the way I play, then I know whatever I do, everybody's gonna be proud of me. And I always put in the work in. And I think if you put in the work and just focus on, just getting through everything day by day, because pressure is all it's gonna do is put you down. And I think the most important thing is always just to stay positive and get through it yourself. So for me, I just take it as motivation to just keep getting better and push myself and every day as just a reminder of how much more I want it, how much more I want to get better, and just keep doing what I love just to help and inspire whoever else is out there.
You are preparing for a game today, I understand. I mean tomorrow, and are you looking for another big game? And what do you think about your chances in your next game?
Yeah, honestly, I can't wait finally for game day. It's always the best day. And just for me, I'm just gonna let the game come to myself as it goes and, compete out there and help my team, however it is to win. And, with the season coming up, it's definitely an exciting time with college basketball and myself finally starting my freshman year. So I'm just so excited and grateful to finally play. And I can't wait to just go out there with my team and show up what we've been doing so far.
Just like all other Filipinos campaigning overseas, we've got a player like by the name of 30 Ravenna playing in Japan, and all of a sudden his team in Japan is now a home team of the Philippines. Now that you're playing in Duke, a lot of people are following you in terms of Duke games. Obviously, this is a boost, and you should be telling Duke that merchandise of Vanessa De Jesus will start selling like hotcakes in the Philippines. So, how excited are you to get the Filipino support for Duke University Blue Devils?
I'm just so grateful, and I love all the support. I see it through social media and everything that doesn't go unnoticed. I just want to say thank you again, and all it does is just motivates me just to keep getting better and show what I've got to just represent who I am and everyone else who supports me. So just thank you, and I'm just gonna keep working and keep getting better.
Well, we wish you all the best for your game tomorrow, and we certainly will continue to pay attention to all of your games, and hopefully one day see you in the uniforms of Gilas Pilipinas. Good luck, and thank you so much, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Yan po mga kaibigan, si Vanessa De Jesus, ang Phil-American point guard ng Duke University Blue Devils na pambihira ang ginagawang paglalaro ngayon. And sana nga, although alam natin na si Vanessa po ay walang or hindi siya nakakuha ng passport when she was 16. Again, that particular rule ng FIBA na dapat ikaw ay merong passport bago ka dumating sa edad na 16 ay magiging balakid sa kanyang balak na maglaro para sa ating koponan. Pero alam niyo po, pinag-aaralan ngayon yan at of course tinutulak ng SBP na mabigyan ng pagkakataon maglaro ang mga tunay na may dugong Pilipino para sa ating national team. Alright, mga kaibigan, batiin lang namin ng ating mga suki na mga agang nakatutok sa Power and Play. Si Janice Mabilangan, magandang umaga. Lisa Panaugalingnog, magandang umaga po sa inyo. Jana Rose Bilod, Merlin Rabe, maayong buntag sa tanan. Maayong buntag mula sa Cebu. Nelly Beriso, good morning po. Randy Duenas, si Jeva Flor Caparida, good morning po. I pray po sana mawala ng COVID para maliwanag sa lahat ang Pasko. Talaga naman, tama po yan, nakikisama tayo dyan sa inyong panalangin. Marami pa pong nakatok, mamaya magbabati pa tayo. Gusto ko nga pala munang batiin ng isang happy birthday, belated, yung anak ng ating producer, si Gab Balyari, si Jael Aurora, malay ng kanyang first birthday. Ang aking pong, parang apo ko na yan, Gab? First birthday ni Jael. Happy birthday, Jael. Gusto ko rin pong batiin si Congressman Onyx Crisologo ng District 1 ng Quezon City ng isang happy birthday kahapon. Naku, talaga namang ang sarap ng golf, Kong Onyx. Happy birthday, boss. At sana po patuloy na kayo makatulong sa ating mga kasama dito po sa Quezon City. Alright, at this point mga kaibigan, kanina pinag-uusapan natin ang PBA Finals. 2-1 na ang score. Lamang pa rin ang Ginebra, although natalo sila kahapon. Kaya mga Ginebra fans, sabi relax lang, 2-1 pa naman Ika nga ni Team Cone, tambakan ka man ng 21 o natalo ka ng isa, pareho yan. Isa panalo lang yan. Lamang pa po ang Ginebra ng 2-1, pero sabi naman ng mga TNT fans, ito na kami. Malapit na kami. Dumadating na, parating na po. Well, ang dalawa pong manlalaro na naging bayani ng Game 1 and 2 ng serye ng Ginebra at ng TNT ay ating pong naabutan nung pong Huwebes ng gabi before they played game number 3. Hindi naman siguro rason kaya sila napuyat. Pero sila po ay ating nakapanayam at ito po ang ating interview, ang ating pong usapan kay Aljon Mariano at kay Arvin Tolentino. Alam nyo, alam ko bago tayo magsimula nitong interview ito, na kayo, pagka nandiyan sa bubble, nagkikita-kita kayo, pati yung kalaban ninyo sa championship, which is kakaiba yan, no? Sa regular na championship. Alam mo yan, Aljon, dahil ikaw marami ka na napasukan championship sa Ginebra. Anong pakiramdam? Ano nangyayari pag nagkikita-kita kayo ng mga tiga-Tokex?
Nung una, medyo weird kasi syempre parang minsan kahit talo or panalo, after nyo ng laro, magkikita-kita pa rin talaga kayo sa isang hotel. So, tingin ko nung parating na po nung playoffs, parang yung mga teams parang mas nagseryoso talaga, nag-level up lahat, and yung competitiveness talaga yung nandun na lahat ng team may goal talaga, so doon lang nakafocus talaga. Pero syempre yung minsan, syempre yung mga kaibigan sa ibang teams, syempre batian pa rin kayo. And,
oo. Arvin, ikaw, alam ko, FEU ka, nakasama mo sila RR Pogoy. Anong pakiramdam, no, na kayo ba tatawagan? Kahit sa kwarto, nagtatawagan kayo sa telepono o nagkakaroon ng kantsawan?
Minsan may ganun. Pero ngayon, bawas muna ng biruan Kasi seryoso lahat, nakafocus sa finals.
Pinag-uusapan natin ng finals. Alright. Arvin, this is a question sa iyo, no? Alam natin na ikaw ay rookie. You were picked by Ginebra this year, 10th pick overall ng rookie draft. Nag-transition ka from a rookie and all of a sudden ngayon nandito ka na sa pros and you're in the finals. Ano ang pinakamahirap na parte ng pag-transition mo as a rookie all the way to this bubble, all the way to the finals so far? Ano ang pinakamabigat na parte nito, Arvin?
Siguro yung physicality nung laro dito sa PBA kasi syempre yung mga kalaban ko mga mama na rin So, kumbaga sa college kasi 'di ba, ako yung isa sa mama. Pero dito balik bata ulit ako So, yun yung pinakamalaking adjustment sa akin.
Aljon, ikaw naman, this is nakaka-apat ka na sa Ginebra na championship and since 2015 and talagang kumbaga sanay ka na dyan sa finals, lalong-lalo na sa ilalim ni Coach Tim Cone. But alam natin, sa loob ng bubble, walang fans dan sa AUF. Wala yung nagsisisigaw sa inyo pag championship and of course, wala yung ika nga bumubuyo sa inyo para lalo pang gumaling. Ano ang pakiramdam? Mas malaki ba ang pressure? O mas konti ba ang pressure na wala ang fans o pareho lang?
Nung una po, parang hirap nung adjustment kasi sanay nga kami na may fans, lalo na pag down yung team, talagang iba yung moral na nabibigay nila sa amin. Lalo na pag kunwari, down kami ng mga double digits, ganyan. Parang alam namin na meron kaming 6 months sa likod namin na ipupush kami para hindi na kailangan na parang manggaling sa sarili namin yung energy talagang sa kanila talaga nanggagaling. So, dito po sa bubble, syempre medyo mahirap kasi wala nga asahan na ganun. So, kailangan talaga yung team, bawat mo na mag-cheer sa inyo and yung coaching staff nandyan talaga na pinupush kami na lalo na pag down kami, parang ilang games sa kanila down, at least nakakabalik pa rin kami.
Yung ba mga ganong bagay, Arvin, alam natin legendary yan sa Hinebra. I'm sure napanood yan nung bata ka na talagang pag ang Hinebra sa finals, katakot-takot ang hakot na tao niyan talaga. No? But yung ba ngayon na nasa Hinebra ka, nangihinayang ka na hindi mo pa naramdaman, lalo-lalo na nasa finals kayo?
Yeah, medyo nakakapangina kasi kumbaga being Hinebra player, yun yung isa sa talagang ikaka-excite mo yung mga fans. And ngayon, wala. Sari-sariling cheer lang kami sa bench.
Meron ba cheer? May cheer ba kayo? Meron ba kayong pinag-uusapan na dapat sabay-sabay kami mag-cheer o meron kayong cue na para lalong lumakas ang loob? Meron ba ganon, guys?
pag sa bench, lalo pag sa pag crucial na yung part ng game. Doon talagang nagsisigaw na kami ng Hinebra doon eh. Kami-kami na lang din.
Akala ko depensa ang sinisigaw, Aljon baka ganon. Depensa. Ang cheer ng UST. Alright. Nasa
Hinebra
finals tayo
Hinebra
ngayon.
yung sinisigaw.
Ayun, Hinebra ang sinisigaw. Aljon, when you talk about the finals, obviously si Coach Tim Cone, inihahanda kayo laban sa talk and text dahil ito talaga, kumbaga tutok na ang matchups ninyo. Ano ang role na binibigay sa iyo ni Coach Tim Cone? Kaya actually kayong dalawa, ano ang mga roles na binigay sa inyo specifically ng coaching staff? Aljon, ikaw muna.
Siyempre, lahat naman kami, sa buong team namin, defense first talaga yung role namin. So, lahat ng players, yun talaga yung pinaka-priority namin. So, ako, yung tingin ko, yun, defense, tapos energy and hustle and everything na little things na ma-contribute ko sa team para mag-edge na magkaroon kami kahit konting edge para manalo. Yun lang yung gagawin ko. Doesn't matter kung score, kung rebounds, everything na pwede. Talagang yun lang.
Arvin, ikaw naman ang bibigay sa'yo bilang rookie and yet gamit na gamit ka. Ano ang role na inassign sa'yo ni Coach Tim?
Well, yun nga, number 1 yung sinabi ni AJ na defense. So, sinabi sa akin ni Coach na I have to be able to defend guard position saka yung big man position. So, yun. And sinasabi niya lagi sa akin na if open ako, take the shot. So, binibigyan din niya ako ng kumpiyansa.
Alam nyo, kayong dalawa, you've given a lot of minutes in this final series, Aljon and Arvin. Are you surprised na sobrang laki ng tiwala? You're playing ahead of even veterans katulad ng nila Jeff Chan, even Joe DeVee, even Jared Dillinger. Are you surprised na ganito kalaki ang pagtiwala na binibigay ni Coach Tim at ng buong coaching staff? Ikaw muna, Arvin.
Ako sobrang gulat na gulat ako kasi syempre being a rookie, first finals game, first time ko din sa championship, tapos nakakuha ako ng minutes and masaya naman kasi nakapag-perform ako ng maayos and nakatulong ako sa team. So, yun.
Aljon, ikaw? Nasusurpresa ka ba na ganyang kalaki ang role mo sa Hinebra?
Nung coming to the season, medyo parang in-expect ko na I'll be playing a lot more minutes than usual than before. So, medyo pinrepare ko na yung sarili ko kung ano yung kailangan ko gawin. So, a lot more will be demanded from me. So, kailangan mabalik ko sa kanila yung trust na binibigay nila sa akin and Ayun lang, I'm trying to, from the start, I'm trying to my minutes kahit sa practice, sa games, para mag-build pa yung performance ko. So, ayun lang, basta pag nasa court ako, yun, gagawin ko lang din yung trabaho ko.
Well, let's go back to game one. And obviously, one of the biggest shots in game one, yung ginawa mo, Arvin, with a few seconds remaining, after a timeout, nag-set up si LA, and you cut into the lane, right in baseline, sakto ang paso sa'yo, sinubo mo na lamang sa ring. And then after that, of course, nagsabi si Teniente LA na, I trust Arvin dun sa mga moments na yon. That's the way we are built para pagkatiwalaan ng isa't isa. Anong reaction mo dyan sa trust, dyan sa pagtitiwala ni Teniente Tenorio sa'yo, Arvin?
Una-una, malaking boost sa yun, sa confidence yun. Dahil, di ba, knowing LA, one of our veterans, tapos marami na siya naging achievements dito sa PBA. And kumbaga, LA Tenorio na siya eh. Tapos makuha ko yung tiwala niya. Malaking bagay yun para sa kumpiyansa ko and para sa team.
Was that a play? Ang sabi ni LA, it was a play for him at bahala na siya basta he gets in a position where he can make a good pass. So, sa dinami-dami na papasahan, nagulat ka ba na ikaw ang nabigyan ng bola?
Opo, nagulat ako. Pero nung rin kasi, lahat yun dahil din kay Kueli. Kumbaga ang trabaho ko na lang nung moment na yun is ilagay na lang talaga yung bola sa ring. Kasi nakita ko na na-split niya yung defense. And then yung tao ko si Pugoy, kailangan niya humilp. And nakita ko yung opportunity para kumat dun sa basket kasi nawala yung tingin niya sa akin. So, ayun, na-open ako and binigay na ni Kuya LA. Layup na lang.
Eksaktong-sakto nga naman.
Ayun nga, yung role talaga sa team eh. Siguro, hindi siya yung parang siguro sa tingin ng ibang tough guy, parang yung about physicality and everything eh. Pero, parang minention na sa amin before ni coach yun parang being tough is doing the little things. Parang simple box out, simple getting back on defense, and setting good screens, making plays for your teammates. Siguro ganun, everything na parang little things na hindi mo masyado napapansin na pero lagi mo ginagawa. Siguro ayun lang yan.
Aljon, during that time, sabi ko nga, you were down by 15, humabol kayo. Napuna mo ba kaya ka nag-take over or naging mas agresibo na yung mga kakampi mong veterano medyo hindi masyadong maganda ang laro, kaya naman ikaw na ang step up? Talagang sinadya yan, sabi ni Coach Tim sa'yo, medyo malas yung kakampi mo, ikaw na tumira. Was that a design play for you to take over the game?
Hindi naman po siya design play kasi parang ang mantra namin sa team, more on ball movement talaga, equal opportunity. So, pero coming into the game talaga, medyo ilang games na medyo masama yung contribution ko eh. Parang I came in more aggressive lang. Ayun yung mindset ko, more aggressive sa defense and offense. So, nakita ko rin na parang kailangan at gumawa ng paraan lahat kami pero ang ganda ng group na humabol sa amin talagang sa depensa nagsimula talaga, tapos nagpapasahan kami, lahat kami nakakontribute. Ayun, kaya nahirapan siguro sila maka-rotate sa depensa, ganun.
Alam ko, Arvin, na ikaw, nabanggit mo na in several of your interviews na Ginebra was your dream team. Even when you were young, I'm sure marami naman sa mga lalaro gusto maglaro sa isang very popular team katulad ng Ginebra. But let me just ask you, bakit? Sino ba idol mo sa Ginebra? Bakit mo naging dream team ang Ginebra, Arvin?
Actually, nag-start yun sa family ko, sa mga tito ko. Lagi silang nanonood ng Ginebra nung bata ako. And syempre, may kinood na rin ako. Actually, naalala ko nun, ang favorite player ko sa Ginebra is Ronald Tubid.
Uy,
siya yung talagang naano ako eh, na-entertain ako sa kanya.
The Saint. And of course, yun yung panahon na talagang hindi naman gano'ng kalakas ang Ginebra, pero talagang lumalaban. No?
And syempre si Kuya Mark. Nung bata pa si Kuya Mark nun eh.
Oo, baka magtampo si MC Portuguesa.
Baka di
Arjun,
ako
ikaw,
usapin eh.
ikaw ba ever since Hinebra ka rin, Hinebra fan? Dream team mo rin ba ang Hinebra? And meron ka bang idol na nagmula sa Hinebra?
Syempre sir, dream team talaga yung Nebra kasi bata pa lang ako. Pag may chance na nakakanood sa Araneta lang yung napapanood namin eh. Kasi talagang inaabangan talaga kasi yung sigawan ng crowd tapos talagang sobrang ingay talaga sa Araneta. Ibang klase talaga. Pero
Oo.
idol, siguro, nung before parang lahat sila pinapanood ko naman eh. So, lahat sila gusto ko talaga na yung paglalaro nila, yung style play na. Pero nung napunta na ako sa Ginebra, talagang idol si Kuya Mark, si JJ, ganyan, Kuya LA. Kasi iba yung, nung naging teammate na sila, doon ko sila naging idol kasi iba yung pagiging professional nila eh. Ayun lang.
Pero alam mo, Aljon, ako tagal na rin ako sumusunod sa basketball. Alam mo kung may ihahambing ako sa iyo, si Dondon ang palayo ng Hinebra. Talagang even the way he moves, very sukat na sukat ang galaw at napakahusay ng kanyang positioning sa ilalim. Kahit hindi siya kalakihan, nakikipaglaban siya sa mga malalaki. That's why minsan pag napapanood kita, akala ko si Dondon ang palayo, naglalaro pa rin eh. Ngayon, let me just ask you, no? Alam natin dito sa bubble na napakalaking influence si Coach Tim Cone sa inyo. And this is his 35th finals appearance. Sa kumbaga sa wealth of experience, yung kanya ay halos Pacific Ocean sa dami, no, sa laki. Ano ang best advice so far na nabigay na sa inyo ni Coach Tim Cone? Arvin, ikaw muna.
Yun na, yung actually kanina na sinabi na walang off night sa effort. Walang bad game sa effort. Diba? So, kahit mag-struggle ka offensively, basta yung effort mo nandun. Especially in defense.
Very wise words. Aljon, ikaw, anong pinakamagandang advice na nabigay sa iyo ni Coach Tim?
Since nung rookie ako, if moving forward, kahit ano mangyari, kung bad game, bad plays, or good play, or good games naman, yung next pa rin yung i-tweet mo kung paano mag-i-improve, paano ka magiging better pa susunod.
And we talk about getting better now that we've seen you in game 1 and 2. Meron pa bang ilalabas si Aljon at saka si Arvin dito sa finals na to? O what can the Hinebra fans expect mula sa inyong dalawa? Aljon, ikaw muna.
Ayun nga, sabi ko kanina, we're trying to improve all throughout the season. So, ayun lang.
Arvin?
I-improve namin lahat nung ginawa namin sa game 1 and game 2. And bibigay namin yung best namin para makuha yung championship.
Alam mo, kayong dalawa, you've had a magnificent pambihirang journey o paglalakbay from your collegiate leagues. Alam natin you were both highly touted. Maraming nagsabi na kayo ay magiging malaking star sa PBA. From, of course, ikaw, Arvin, from Ateneo to FEU, ngayon to Hinebra. Si Aljo naman from UST all the way to Hinebra. If there was anything na meron kayong baguhin sa inyong paglalakbay patungo sa kung saan naroon kayo ngayon, is there anything that you think you could have done better, Arvin?
Actually, sa journey, wala eh. Wala akong pinagsisisihan. Dahil lahat yun yung naging stepping stone ko papunta dito sa pro, sa Hinebra, kung nasaan ako ngayon. And I think kung may dadagdag lang ako, siguro sana dinoble ko yung effort ko nung mga times na yun. So, ayun, mas sinipagan pa.
Very well said. Aljon, ikaw, meron ka bang gusto sanang baguhin dito sa paglalakbay mo hanggang ngayon?
Wala sir. Yun nga, same as Arvin, yung mga experiences before, yun yung nagdala sa amin dito eh. And it made me who I am now. So, mababaguhin ko eh, parang every year, nakakapaglaro ako sa Ginebra, nakakuha ng championship, playing with the greatest coach sa PBA and greatest fans sa PBA or best fans in the world. And yung mga teammates ko, lagi nandiyan para sa akin and family ko, okay. Okay lahat.
Blessing talaga. Alright. Yan po mga kaibigan ang ating panayan kay Aljon Mariano at si Arvin Tolentino, ang mga bayani ng Game 1 and 2 ng serye ng Ginebra kontra TNT Tropang Giga. Of course, kahapon natalo nga sila, pero ito po dalawang ito ay malaki ang magiging role, ang gagampanan nilang roles dito po sa seryeng ito. And I think it will be very, very interesting to see also paano tatakbo ang kanilang mga career. These are two very good players, hindi lamang sa paglaro ng basketball, kung hindi sa kanila pong pananaw sa buhay. Alright, at this point, kami po ay magbi-break muna. Ha? We will take a quick break. Kayo po ay nanonood ng Power and Play with Com Noli Iyala. Hatid sa inyo ng Big Boss Cement at ng Cherry Loam. Alright mga kaibigan, ang dami-dami po yung mga nakatutok sa atin ngayon. Gusto po natin batiin si Ian Mohe mula sa Canada. Magandang araw sa inyo dyan, Ian. Of course, sa lahat po ng pamilya natin dyan. Kinakamusta rin po natin si Alex Fuentes mula sa Bacolod. Si Edna Dusbang, good morning po. Gina De Cruz, Erlinda Lapus, Pinky Manguray. Si Jane Bunsit all the way from Thailand. Good morning sa inyo dyan sa Thailand. And of course, si Milagros Restrullo, big Ginebra fan. Edith Torrifiel, may nagpapabati mula sa Cebu City, si Edsel Del Mar. Shout out daw sa Singles for Christ Central 1A Mabolo. And of course, si Chela Dagaas from Davao Oriental. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Binabati po natin ang isang happy birthday ang aking kumpare, si Homer Flores. Happy birthday, partner. Kumpare ko po yan, si Homer Flores, batikang arranger at musikero Homer Flores. Happy birthday din kay Alfred Reyes, ang ating kaibigan na hotelier, si Alfred Reyes. At this point, I'd like to again thank all of our sponsors, lahat po ng tagapagtaguyod ng Power and Play. Lalong-lalo na po, of course, ang Big Boss Cement. Big Boss sa tatag, Big Boss sa tibay. Nandito na ang Big Boss Cement. Di basta matitibag. Approved sa kalikasan at sobrang abot kaya. Big Boss Cement is the first eco-friendly cement company in the Philippines. First and only cement that is produced with low to 0% of high carbon footprint raw materials. Maraming salamat po sa Big Boss Cement sa suporta sa sports, lalong-lalo na si Engineer Gilbert Cruz, ang kanila pong presidente at Chief Company Innovator. Thank you also, of course, to Cherryloom, ang Yerong May Aluminum. Sa ganitong pabago-bago na panahon, mga kababayan, sobrang init tapos biglang uulan, kailangan natin ng matibay at protektadong bubong. Dapat ang bubong ay Yerong May Aluminum para tiyak na pang matagalan. Alam mo ba, pagka ang yero nyo ay may halong aluminum, ito ay tumatagal. At isa lang ang alam kong dekalidad na yerong may aluminum. Yan ang Cherryloom. Tibay protektado sa pangmatagalang yero. Cherryloom, ang yerong may aluminum. Maraming salamat sa ating kaibigang si partner Elmer Ngo. Maraming salamat, paring Elmer. Gusto ko rin po magpasalamat, of course, sa Joyride, ang inyong bagong kasundo. Wherever you are, whatever you need, we can deliver. Mabilis, mura at mapagkakatiwalaan na delivery. Dito na kayo sa subok na. Download the Joyride app now. And of course, nagsimula na po ang Joyride Motorcycle Taxi Services sa Kalakang, Maynila. Download lang niyo po ang pinaka-latest na Joyride app. Of course, dapat po tayo ay cashless. And of course, ang ating passenger helmet program. Kailangan po ng sarili kayong helmet. Kaya po, huwag niyo kalimutan magdala ng helmet. Meron po kaming pinamimigay ng libreng helmet courtesy of Joyride Philippines. Maraming salamat po sa Elms Kapihan, Resto Bar Group, and of course, Elms Winery and Kapihan. Ang Elms po ay patuloy na nagsisilbi ng almusal, snack, lunch at dinner, o kahit pulutan lang. Grab your phone, nagdi-deliver din po ang Elms Resto Bar Group. Tikman nyo ang kanilang kare-kare, beef or bagnet sizzling sinigang na corned beef, Elms Old Style Burger, and of course, pasta. Yan po ang kanilang mga branches sa Quezon City, Cali Bistro Ever Commonwealth, Robinsons, Novaliches, and of course, meron po silang Makati branch sa Poblacion, Makati. Thank you so much kay Miss Malu Yambao. Thank you also to Skin, yung Makiage Professional, ang ating pong official School of Makeup Artistry, official makeup po ng Power and Play. And of course, to Skin, your face and body anti-aging center. Ang Skin po ay may branches sa Alabang Town Center and sa Wilson Street sa San Juan. For all your skincare needs, tumawag lamang sa 0917-890-1640 and they can deliver your skincare products as well as yung pong ating serbisyo para sa ating pag-alaga ng ating balat. Maraming salamat po kay Doc G. Sarmiento and of course sa kanyang may bahay, si Dr. Richie Sarmiento. Maraming salamat po sa lahat ng mga tagapagtaguyod. O siya nga pala, thank you also to all of the Joyride Kasundo bikers. Maraming salamat din po sa Snooze Manila. Kung kailangan nyo po ng panregalo this Christmas, Snooze Manila ang inyo po hanapin sa Instagram. Alright. Alam niyo po, napag-usapan natin kanina, yun pong, sige, yung ating pinupulsuhan ngayong araw pong ito. Ang pinupulsuhan po natin ay yung sang-ayon ba kayo na walang hihirangin PBA MVP ngayong season na to bagkus lamang ay best player of the conference? Ang dami pong nagpadala ng kanilang mga kuro-kuro. Si King Imperial, sabi niya para sa PBA record, should have been named the conference MVP or bubble MVP. Mula kay Cinco Coyoca, actually marhaba yung kanyang naging message sa Viber or rather sa Twitter. Sabi niya, dapat may hirangin dyan. Kumbaga, sakripisyo ang nilaan ng mga mandirigma natin na players para makapagbigay ng kasiyahan sa mga tao. Yun daw ang sabi niya. Mula kay Ronald Torrecampo, para po sa akin, okay lang po ang BPC kasi ang MVP tatlong conference ang binubuno. Mula naman kay Don Wayne Garcia, agree on BPC only. Si Vinny Anthony Gapus, may formula pa siya. MVP equals percentage of BPC plus percentage of finals. BPC equals elims, finals MVP equals playoff and finals. Pambihira, no? Talagang pinag-aralan. Pang Einstein, itong si Vinny Gapus. Mula kay Ka Efren, kaibigan natin to sa Twitter. Hindi. Kasi regular season din naman ito, ginawang isang conference lang. Kaysa tawaging BPC, bakit di na lang MVP? Well, yan ang ating opinion po mula kay Ka Efren. Mula kay MJ Bertis, hindi po, at least value the effort of those na nagsakripisyo na malayo sa pamilya nila para makapaglaro at least a bubble MVP. Mula naman kay Ada Isip, good morning. Yung sa MVP awards, I think dapat meron kasi lahat ng naglaro sa bubble, nag-sacrifice ng health nila aside sa iniwan nila family just to somehow make us happy by playing, sana na i-consider yun. Clarence Ocampo, good morning, Com. Noli, okay lang po, walang MVP kasi dahil sa pandemic. Mahirap i-gauge po kung sino talaga. Anyway po, at least we have best player. Thanks po. And from Francisco Garcia, yung sa MVP dapat merong basketball bubble. Siguro ang ibig sabihin niya dapat MVP. Pero ako po, ito ang akin lang opinion at ito ay sinabi ni Sip Sider, which is I think very important. Dapat, sabi ni Sip Sider sa Twitter, dapat bago pa nagsimula ang bubble, nagdesisyon na yan. Mahina din mga namamahala or sinasadya na nila tingnan muna sino makakaangat. Ang punto po niya ay siguro dapat before the bubble, nag-decide na ang PBA na MVP ba yan o best player lamang. Kasi mahirap naman. Kung sa dulo, saka ka magdidesisyon, aalisin mo. Naglalaro yung mga players hoping na magkakaroon ng MVP. Wala po namang mali siya yan. Siguro hindi po ako sangayon doon sa tinitingnan nila sino mananalo. Pero dapat po, ako lang ang tamang planning, bago pa nagsimula ang PBA, nag-decide na sila, may MVP ba o walang MVP? Because that you owe to the players. Alright, at this point, mga kaibigan, atin pong ipapasok ngayon ang ating naging interview sa tatlong players na naging o naglaro ng malaking bahagi sa pagkapanalo po ng Gilas Pilipinas doon po sa FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers sa Bahrain. At ika nga, malaking bahagi sila sa naging programa. Ano kaya ang magiging kinabukasan nitong tatlong ito, lalong-lalo na sa paglaro sa Gilas Pilipinas? Huwag na natin tawagin Gilas Cadets dahil sila po ay Gilas Pilipinas, period. Walang iba kung hindi ang mga players ng galing sa Ateneo, si Dwight Ramos at si Will Navarro, at mula sa San Beda University, si Kemar Carino dito po sa Panayam sa Power and Play. Good day and nice to see all of you here with us in Power and Play. Let me just throw the first question out there. Obviously, you're fresh from that FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers. Dwight, I will throw the first question at you, and I guess to the two others. This was not your first time, Dwight, obviously, to wear the Gilas uniform, but this was the first time that you were with a purely non-professional team. How did you feel added pressure to perform given the circumstances, and of course wearing once again that Gilas uniform?
I don't think I felt any added pressure. I think, if anything, there was more pressure the first game, being it was my first game here, and playing with the other professionals. It's like, oh, I have to play up to their level. So I think this game it was a little more relaxed for me, and I felt a little more at ease.
William, ikaw, it was your first time in an international stage. Did you feel different wearing a national team uniform, and of course, the pressure of having to play outside of the country?
Syempre po, may pressure will always be there. Pero it's just a basketball game. So tinanggal namin yung pressure. Parang laro lang na kami ng basketball.
Kaya Mark, nung nagbinuo tong team na to, alam naman natin na kayong lahat ay mga bagito as a team together, no? And you went through a long layoff dahil wala nga tayong basketball sa ating bansa. There was no basketball here. What were the biggest challenge for you? And I guess personally, no? Papunta ng Bahrain, and of course, given the very short time to prepare for this tournament. Kay Mark.
Siguro yung preparation at condition namin kasi halos 8 months din kaming walang basketball eh. So nung nagpatawag yung Gilas ng bubble, parang nanibago yung namin. Yung katawan namin kasi parang hindi namin na-try yung actual training ng 8 months.
Yeah, go ahead.
And yung siguro yung isa pa yung condition namin. Talagang tigil talaga. As in, back to zero kami lahat.
Dwight, when you got into this team, as Ken Mark is saying, a long layoff, you had not played basketball in 8 months. Were there any kind of expectations on yourself, that you'd be able to catch up? Of course, you went into a bubble in Calamba. Was there a sense of urgency for you to get ready and really to get back in shape?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we knew that it wasn't going to be a lot of time to prepare, so it just tried to take every day to play our hardest and everything. So there was weights, practices. We just tried to do everything the hardest we could to make up for all the lost time we had.
How difficult was it, William, as a first timer in the international stage? To get yourself mentally ready for this, especially since alam natin you went into the Calamba bubble with Gilas and hindi na kayo umuwi, dire-diretso na kayo all the way to Bahrain. So what helped you settle down as in the team and being in a different environment?
Medyo ako hindi ako masyado nahirapan. Like kami ni Dwight Ateneo boys kasi yung system namin is very similar to Ateneo system. So ayun, medyo okay naman yung nagawa namin. Like personally, yung mga nakita ko. So konting adjustments lang siguro.
Okay, so ang ibig sabihin dito, William, because nga ando si Tab and mukhang yun ang ginamit sa sistema, madali kayo nakapag-adjust. So, yung iba ang talagang, kumbaga, aral ng sistema ninyo. Now, okay, kay Mark, kung gano'n ang mga pangyayari, paano nakatulong si William sa inyo? Kunyari, katulad mo, how are these two guys able to help you learn the system right away? And of course, yung mga hindi galing sa sistema ni Coach Tab Baldwin at ni Coach Jong Owichico.
Tinatanong ko po sila lagi kung ano yung dapat gawin or ano yung pwede kong i-adjust kasi yun nga, magkaiba ng system, BEDA tapos system ng Ateneo. So, sila yung lagi kong nilalapitan.
Nahirapan ka ba? Nahirapan ka ba kay Mark?
Hindi naman po gaano.
All right. Well, okay, let's go to Bahrain. Terrific games you played. Magnificent victories, very satisfying. But in game 1, which I covered, you were perfect. You were almost, unblemished. Nothing went wrong. 7 out of 7 from the field. You did very, very well. What was your mindset going into that game?
I just think it was an all young team, all cadets. So I think I just wanted to go out there and we all wanted to show prove the doubters that we're still young, but we can still do this. So I mean, I think maybe we accomplished that, but there's still more for us to improve, and we probably have to see if we can create the same results against a stronger team.
Was there any concern, William and kay Mark, about chemistry? Alam naman natin that there were a bunch of you from Ateneo, may dalawa from San Beda, and then the rest were from different teams. Concerned ba kayo nun, William, na hindi kayo mag-gel in time? And how did you hasten that process? Paano nyo pinabilis na the chemistry can come together?
Medyo yun, at first talaga yung chemistry namin, yun yung naayos pa namin kasi syempre different schools so magkalaban kami, di ba? Pero in time, throughout time, since palagi kami magkasama, on and off the court, di ba? We at the same time, so ayun, we started to form a bond. Naging mas close kami on and off the court. So yun yung maging maganda sa bubble namin.
Sino ang naging roommate mo? Sino yung roommate mo ba kay Mark? Si Calvin ba from San Pedro o pinaghalo-halo kayo? Paki-ulit na yun, Calvin. Mukhang hindi kita narinig. Sino yung naging mo dito? Naging roommate mo sa bubble?
Wala po. As in, one person per room lang.
One player per room. So talagang pag nagkakasama lang kayo sa kainan o sa practice, doon kayo nagkaka-interaction. Oh, wow. So, okay. So ang ibig ba sabihin nun, kay Mark, it was hard to adjust? Would you say na nagkaroon ka ng problema adjusting o sabihin mo natural yung fit ninyong nasa Gilas Cadets?
Siguro adjustment hindi po
Madali lang.
Madali lang po. Talagang as in halos ilang days lang po kami nang magkasama, parang meron ng nabuong pan talaga parang samahan ba?
All right. Guys, you played a tough Thai team. This is a team that is full of veterans, no? Dwight, what is the hardest part about playing Thailand? You played a lot of minutes, and obviously this is a team that, although you beat them quite easily, obviously this is a team that gave it all they've got.
I'll say anytime you're playing against pros, it's a little difficult. I mean, they have a lot of experience under their belt, and they just know how to play basketball the right way. So I think that was the biggest thing. And they had that their big man Jack Rowan. Yeah, I think he was a good player too. So I mean, they had some good players there, and they really tried hard to play against us.
William, you've played against very physical teams in the past, even in the UAAP. Ang Taiba, because they're a very experienced team. 7 of them come from the high-tech Bangkok City that has ruled the Thai domestic league. And of course, about 6 of them, I think, played in the ASEAN Basketball League. But were they a physical team, William? Did you find them to be a physical team that pushed you quite hard?
Yeah, just like what Dwight said, they were kind of physical team. Kasi, matatanda na eh. So, normal talaga na ganun yung playing style nila. And syempre, we're a young team eh. So, parang na-ano nila na, uy, bata to. So, like, they were playing extra hard.
Alam mo, balikan mamaya yan. But kay Mark, kanina binanggit ni Dwight about the big man, si Chatnip Chakrawan ng Thailand. He is the MVP ng kanilang domestic league. You played against him, sentro ka, no? Same position at least. Ano ang napunan mo dito sa player na to? Anong impression mo?
For me, malakas siya. And siguro, yun nga, veterano na rin. Tsaka marami na rin siyang experience. Kaya, yun.
Gentlemen, you went. The Philippines always sends its men's team to qualifiers like this with the pros, and of course you are a young team that relatively does not have the same kind of experience. Dwight, how did you feel when you got to Bahrain? Did you feel like the other teams were saying, this is a young team, we can take them easily? Did you get that kind of impression when you got to the bubble?
I don't think so. I didn't really pay attention too much to like looking at the other teams, but I think they just saw like this is the Philippines national team. Like I think we looked the part. So I think we did okay. Just going there representing the country.
Oh, definitely you did okay. And I think you showed them that it was not about the age, it's about the kind of game that we play as Filipinos. But talking about the game, William, do you think that those 2 games that you played sa Bahrain pushed the team enough to prove itself, or was there still a lot more to give mula sa inyo? Kasi alam naman natin, and Coach Tab has already said this, Coach Jong has said this many times, you're a very, very talented team individually. So do you think that those 2 games was a reflection already of the potential of this team, or meron pa na ilalabas?
Although we won, pa rin eh. Dami pa rin. Hindi pa kami satisfied sa performance namin. Yan, sinasabi ng tao na tambak, di ba? Ganun. Pero honestly, parang feel namin we can do better pa. Much better. Kasi yung preparation time namin, konti lang eh. So, if we only had more time to prepare, for sure, dami. Tambak, super tambak pa yan.
Well, yeah. maganda yan. Magandang point out yan. Talagang it would have been bigger lead, bigger margin kung mas patagal pa kayo naghanda. But there's also the other side of it, which is really the lessons that you learned from this trip. You being a young crew that was set to battle for the Philippines. Kay Mark, may mga personal na leksyon ka bang natutunan mula sa inyong biyahe dyan sa Bahrain Bubble na sa tingin mo will make you grow even more in your career as a basketball player?
Marami, syempre. Marami akong feeling ko meron pa akong kailangang matutunan for the future. And yung mga words na sinasabi ni Coach Steph is ma-apply ko rin naman siya.
Dwight, any other lessons that you'd like to share with us from your experience in Bahrain?
it was just a good experience overall. I mean, we got to bond and get closer together because we're always 24/7 together, eating together, practicing. I think it was just overall a good experience, learning more about the other players and just getting more experience like with international play.
William, were there any valuable tips or mga advice na naibigay sa inyo, especially yung mga coaches, the veterans, Coach Jong and Coach Boyet, during that trip ninyo?
Yeah, dami naman kami natutunan. And since wala kasi kami pros and veterans sa team talaga na yung mga players from the PBA. Young team kami and siguro yung natutunan namin dun is how to become a pro, diba? How to be professional. Kasi yun yung madadala ng PBA players kung kasama namin sila. Since cadets lang kami, Gilas, bata. So medyo yun lang yung nagkulang siguro. Pero overall okay naman.
You know, let me go back and bring you back, I guess, to local shores now. Kay Mark, ngayon na nakapaglaro ka na sa Gilas, ano sa tingin mo, and when you go back to your own team, do you think na mas malaki na na-improve mo? And sa tingin mo ba, ito ay magiging malaking boost sa San Beda as well?
Feeling ko yung mga what I learned sa Gilas is ma-apply ko rin siya sa team namin. Especially yung mga defense siguro.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to work more pa.
Dwight, you have not played a single game in the UAP, but then people have already seen you play in Gilas, and there have been jokes about you should not play in the UAP because you're all set, you're ready for the pros. How do you react to that? And are you still, quite excited to apply everything that you've gone or you've experienced in Bahrain to your budding collegiate career?
Definitely, because I mean, I think with 2 years in playing in college under Coach Tab, I think there's still a lot I can improve on. I mean, maybe some people think I can play pro already, but for me, I think I'll probably take the 2 years to get better and see how much better and how good I can get after those 2 years.
William, kaibigan ng ating panayam kay Dwight Ramos, William Navarro at si K. Mark Carino, mga miyembro ng Gilas Pilipinas, and of course, kanilang karanasan dun po sa Bahrain kung saan naglaro tayo sa FIBA Asia Cup qualifier. Gusto ko nga palang pasalamatan si team manager ng Ateneo, si Epok Kimpo. Nasapit na kanyang birthday today. Happy birthday, manager Epok Kimpo. And of course, si Coach Jude Roque, manager naman ng San Beda, for making that interview possible. And when you talk about Gilas, of course, ito po yung pinag-uusapan natin in relation to 2023 where we host the World Cup dito po sa Pilipinas. And one of those that is key, super key dito po sa ating paghahanda ay si Coach Tab Baldwin, Program Director ng Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas. We caught up with Coach Tab Baldwin kagabi at ito po ang ating panayam sa Program Director ng Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas, Coach Tab Baldwin. Before we start talking about the Bahrain experience, this trip of yours to Bahrain was as much as it was about the national team. It was also about FIBA holding a historic bubble in Manama, Bahrain, and being successful about it and starting basketball all over the world. So let me just ask you, what were your impressions about the bubble? And did you encounter any problem at all when you got to Bahrain?
Well, you're right. This is it's almost pretty easy to see how historical so many things going on in the world are right now with the pandemic and the quarantines all over the place. irrespective of which side you come down on when you're talking about these quarantines and all the measures being taken to safeguard our health, it is historic. And certainly inside the FIBA bubble, we were asked to do things that were extremely different than any normal competition. For instance, we were in a hotel room. We were all in single rooms. We were excluded from visiting one another's rooms entirely.
Wow.
In order for us to have team meetings, we had to organize it. We had to social distance during the meeting so we could have video sessions. And in the end, we were able to do all of that. But, everything was, on the one hand, it felt like prison. But on the other hand, you really had to understand what FIBA was trying to accomplish just to get basketball back on the map again.
Yeah.
And in a sense, we were the guinea pigs for that in a way, all the teams, not just us. And we did pull it off pretty successfully. There were compromises and sacrifices, but that's what it took, I think, in order to get things going again. So, it was successful in the end.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned about you being in single rooms, which includes the players, obviously. Did you see this at all as a bit of a hindrance to trying to build chemistry? Because we know that when we go on trips, international competitions, we try to pair players with each other just to be able to, hasten whatever relationships that they can build during that time. So being in single rooms obviously was a big challenge as well for you and the coaching staff.
Great point. And not only in Bahrain, but also when we were in camp in Laguna, and then combine that with the fact that it was only a 9-day camp. So we really had very little time to develop that off-court chemistry. And I think that's why so much credit has to go to these players, because throw in the fact they come from rival universities, almost all of them. And, they really had to, I guess, submit to what the message was rather than for us to be able to massage that chemistry. It was cold turkey. This is what we've got to do, guys, and it's up to you to do it. And they did a tremendous job of that. And I think that comes down to Philippine culture, really, that they are so warm with one another, and because Filipinos are such warm people. And, we put aside all those potential, I guess, barriers that maybe other players might go through. And we found a lot of common ground and a lot of good chemistry, and we had a great time in spite of all of the restrictions. So, very positive owing to the players.
Well, it's amazing what you were able to accomplish in such a short time, and as you said, credit must go to the players. Credit must go to you, Coach John, Coach Boyet, and the rest of the coaching staff. But when we look at this, obviously, Coach Tab, the question that is begged is, what was the vision behind sending a young core, a team that didn't have too many things, hasn't played a single minute on the floor together? What is the vision of your program, Coach Tab, now that you began this and it has turned out to be very successful?
Well, look, Noli, I think what gets lost in all of the discussions about games and players' performances and teams and all of that is the vision of the program and the formula for accomplishing that vision. And really, our hand was forced here because we couldn't access the PBA players because they were busy in the bubble. And we had a short preparation time. So all of our planning was designed around the college players. And there was a lot that went into, talking to the universities to get their availability, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the important thing is that the vision of the program is to build the best roster we can for 2023, and not the most talented roster, but the best team that we can put together. So chemistry is extremely important in this effort. Getting players to play together, getting coaches to work together, getting players developed for the international game. But what we always have to do along the pathway is we have to pay true homage to the fact that we are playing games, we represent the country, and we want to be successful in those games. The fans want that. The management wants that. So we can't just sacrifice success on the court to accomplish our goals. And so
All right.
servicing these two masters isn't always the easiest thing.
Right. It's a very difficult balancing act to be able to win and at the same time to be able to build a program, because we know that that takes time. And obviously that was something that was not before the qualifiers was not on your side. But now that 2023 is on your side, there is time, I guess, a luxury of time. But let me go back to what you said, Coach Tab, that you know, your hands were tied because of the situation, and you had to dig deep into the rosters of collegiate players. So does this mean that this is a short-term program with collegiate players, or was the timetable just hastened by the situation that we find ourselves in?
Well, it's actually very complex because we always wanted to be involved with the younger players and developing them to see what we could produce for 2023. And of course, guys like Kai Soto and AJ Edu are also in our thinking, and any other players that might crop up in the younger variety, including, you know, some very young players like a Carl Tamayo and LeBron Lopez, and, you know, all of these guys, because we're not just looking at 2023, we're looking at this as a program that produces a national team to be able to get onto the international stage and dominate. But remember, we just lost 8 months of development time where there weren't any training sessions as a team. So, and we're still looking forward at more bubbles instead of regular training occurrences. So it's, you know, we're having to kind of change on the fly all the time about what we're doing, but we don't envisage that this is just going to be collegiate players. We still envisage that we will need, and there will be PBA players that will be involved with us in the long term.
All right. Obviously, that's in the equation. In fact, Al Panlilio has mentioned this already, and Commissioner Willie Marshall has also indicated their willingness to be part of that program. But now that we've seen, you know, a bit of success using a young crew, and now that you're building even more this pool based on a vision that you have, what sort of criteria do you have that would land the player in that pool that will carry out the vision and mission of the SBP?
Well, we're looking at that's a good question. We're looking at various criteria for player involvement. We certainly are looking for a specific physical type of player. We like the longer, taller players because we think they're more competitive in the international game. But the game has come back to the shorter player as well because of, especially in the NBA, because of the rules interpretations of fouls and things like that. So the smaller players are getting back in, and we may see that come back into FIBA and international play as well. So we're not ruling out the Kiefer Ravennas and the Juan Gomez Delianos and the Matt Nietos, you know, the smaller point guards. But we also want to cultivate the taller, longer players. And we just have to be able to dance on our toes a little bit and see how things play out. So we like that sort of player. Character is huge for us. We want guys that are of good character and are going to meld into a very representative national team that we're all proud of. And we also want guys that have a defensive orientation about them, because I just don't believe we can go into the top level of international basketball and outgun the great teams around the world. But when you learn how to frustrate good teams defensively, amazing things can happen for you offensively. And that's, to me, the great leveler. So we need players that have that ability and orientation in their mentality as players. We can cultivate that to some degree, but I think when you can observe it and select it, it's even better.
Obviously, when you said a while ago that you're trying to build a team based on a program that is not necessarily the best in talent, but at least it is the best in terms of coming together as a team. after the Bahrain experience, Coach Tab, who are players that have really impressed you that you feel are, fitting like a hand in glove in this program that you're building for 2023 and beyond?
Well, Noli, I'm always reticent to talk too much about individual players, especially when we had such a abbreviated build-up. And I think what people have to understand is we spent the 9 days of practicing in Laguna and the 2 or 3 days that we had in Bahrain entirely committed to how we were going to play against Thailand. So it really wasn't the typical development of a team. And we certainly didn't get a good feel on how these players are going to blend together and how they're going to develop individually, which is a big part of our program. And to be fair to all the players, they all came in with the right attitude. They did a great job. And so, I think it's premature to begin talking about guys that we think are going to stand out by 2023 because there's so much time between now and then. So the big challenge for me is how can we, in the world that we live in today, get enough time with these players who have other commitments, whether it be university or PBA or whatever it is. How can we get enough time on the court with them for them to get an understanding of what we are really after, and then to cultivate really what are international basketball concepts within these players so that they're more comfortable playing in the international game than they are currently.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you mentioned, the luxury of time that we have now, since we've qualified as host for the 2023 World Cup. And back in 2008, I remember the SBP. At the time, I was part of it. We began a program which is very similar, dedicating a bunch of guys who came from the collegiate ranks and played entirely for the national team. And of course, that was. I would always say that is not an original idea. That came from a previous idea back in 1985, which has been built on through the years. Coach Tab, now that we're pushing on to this program, and obviously the Bahrain experience is something that we're all satisfied about, we're all happy with the results. How do you compare both programs now? And do you think that there is the luxury of time now that you have will be enough cushion for you to push on with a program dedicated to the younger players of the Philippines? Well,
the time frame is what it is. We have to work within that and be as efficient and as optimal as we can in everything that we do. That's a big challenge, because everybody makes mistakes, and we probably will make mistakes in planning and in selection and things like that. So the more time you have, the more time you have to correct those mistakes. But it is good to know that on the record, and there are people within our program now, like a Butch Antonio, who was part of the Rico Torreman era, who allows us to have perspective back to what was going on in those days, and to be able to say to us, hey, we tried that, it wasn't so good, or, we should try this because it worked well. I competed against Rico's Filipino teams, when I was coaching Jordan, when I was coaching Lebanon. And I really loved, I didn't know all about what they had done with a committed national team, but I loved those teams, and I thought they had a great chemistry, and they were tough to play against. But I think that what we want to do is take a different approach in terms of selection. And I think Rico was very committed to a particular group of players right from the beginning. So we have a group of players that we are committed to from the beginning, but those players have been told without exception that, they are there not by right, but by privilege, and they have to earn that right against new players that we will bring in all the time. And that, of course, puts pressure on the selection, because as the timeline shortens, every player that we select has less time to integrate themselves into our systems and into our culture. Right. So it's a balancing act between talent that we will bring in later versus the chemistry that we have established early on. But that's part of the task that we're doing. But don't expect our program to look the same in 3 years as it looks now. I think there certainly
Right.
will be changes.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned about the balancing act, because I think there's another balancing act that is on the table that is very difficult to do, and I think that was also part of the necessity why back in those days in 2008 when the Gilas program was began, there was an inclination towards a dedicated national team, because it's the balancing act between the obligations of a PBA player to their mother club, to the league, that the league will not be disrupted, and the obligation to serve the national team and form the best team possible. And what is your take on this, Coach Tab? Now that there are plans, and you've mentioned this in some of your interviews, that the FIBA windows again will include PBA players, and perhaps obviously for the FIBA Asia Cup.
Well, it certainly will when it is feasible. And it's great now that a partnership has been established between the SBP and the PBA. And that partnership has to be flexible on both sides. There's going to be times when PBA players will, within their calendar, have the luxury of time themselves and be able to commit to the national program. But there's also times where the PBA is going to, have priorities and for instance, a bubble where they just couldn't be flexible. But there are going to be other situations where the priority is probably going to be the PBA for some players.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be flexible, and we have to be, I guess, establishing another network of players who can go out and represent us, possibly not at the same level that we would have if we had all the PBA players, but always with a target toward 2023 of whatever team goes out on the floor at that time, it is the best that we can put on the court, given all of the players in the country. And, again, it's not just going to be the most talented ones. So I would assume that there will be some PBA players that we would recognize as among the best players in the country who may not be a fit for that 2023 team simply because they haven't been a part of the program on an ongoing basis. And for many other reasons, we're going to select a team that we think fits the profile of great chemistry, great understanding of one another, and also, as much talent as we can assemble at the time.
Well, as we moving forward to 2023, a lot of talk has been centered around who will become the naturalized player. That's an essential part of this program, we understand. And Ange Kwame is now on his application is moving forward. Are there any other potential candidates that the SBP, your program, is looking at? Or is it going to be a dedicated, or rather an exclusive slot given to one naturalized player only?
I think there's been a lot of talk, and the SBP is already on the record of saying that we would like to have multiple naturalized players. But we have to respect the process. We have to respect that this is a diplomatic issue, probably more than it is a basketball issue. We have to respect the fact that the Philippines as a country always takes a strong view towards naturalizing anybody. They must be productive for the country. They must come into the country and really add something to the landscape of the Filipino citizen. And so whoever we would be looking at, and as many as we would be looking at, it's really the process that comes first. So yes, we are in the business of identifying players at various levels of ability that we think we would like to take through this process. But of course, there's first the contracting of the player, the getting the enthusiasm from the player, what their international basketball commitments are, and then integrating that with ours, and then seeing if that person, that the country can be amenable to making them a citizen as we go through the process. So nothing will happen quickly. Yes, we are looking at multiple individuals, but first and foremost, we respect the political process that must take place for any human, for any citizen of the world to become a citizen of the Philippines. And
Right.
That's what we're going to do.
Well, we certainly hope that that, as well as the other avenues, like finally getting a rule to make Jordan Clarkson and Stan Hardinger and all the other guys who can't play because of that FIBA 16-year-old passport rule still there, finally get lifted, and we get that opportunity. But Coach Tab, of course, the other element of the program is the coach. And you are on record as having been impressed with the way Coach Jong has done his job in Bahrain. But I have a naughty question. Aside from Coach Jong, are you interested in coaching the Gilas team for 2023?
At this point, no, not at all. My job is to develop a program to put in the hands of a coach at that time that we think is the best coach to go to the World Cup. And that may happen in 2022. I mean, I can't really put a time frame on when that may happen. I'm just telling you that the priority right now, and I am assuming responsibility for that, is to put together a program, including coaches, who are going to put this team in the best position to be put into the hands of a coach that we believe has the type of international record that can help these young men and this basketball team be successful in a world championship environment and the latter part of the build-up to a world championship. And
So,
we
there are no names at the moment, no list, no such thing.
The whole world is wide open, Rolly. The whole world. And I think we're blessed in the fact that MVP has been so committed to this program, and it's not a money tree, but at the same time he wants quality. So we are blessed with the fact that he will invest resources into an individual at that time that we think can do a great job for us.
All right. I want to leave, and I want to end this interview not with an answer from you, but I want to ask you to tell me what are the questions that you are looking at. What are the questions that you're asking moving forward to 2023 that will make our program winnable, successful, especially as a host? What are those questions in your mind right now, Coach Tab?
Some of them are very specific. Some of them are more general. A very important question that cropped up yesterday is, will AJ Edu be healthy? And, he's had chronic knee problems. He now has another meniscus tear after a couple of ACLs. I think he's a key cog in what we're trying to achieve. Another question is, can we beat the bushes internationally and find any other players who may be able to come in and strengthen the pool of players that we have? Another question is, how much time, given the pandemic and given the restrictions of player availability through universities and the PBA, how much time will we get on the court to train and develop a team? What will be our international preparation game program when the new FIBA Windows format is much more restrictive than the old format of where all the national teams would assemble in the summertime and we would all play one another? So now how do we get the preparation games? Obviously, who will this roster ultimately include? And, that who will be making the final selections? Who will be that coach? So there are a lot of questions to answer, and I think we are trying very hard as SBP and as a program to take these things one by one and knock them off, get positive answers, always have a plan B, always understand that, whatever we try to implement, things can arise that derail us, and we have to be able to be light on our feet and make adjustments, just as a coach does during the game.
Exactly.
So really, it's a lot of strategic planning, a lot of tactical planning within the moment. And I think it's one of the big questions is, as it always is in any enterprise, I think, is how do we assemble the highest caliber, highest quality people to help our players become the best possible team that can go out and represent the country in 2023.
Well, Coach, I don't envy you. I'm glad that I asked that, and I'm glad that you listed all of those questions, because amidst all of those questions, there's just one sure answer: that the Filipino will be there to cheer on Gilas Pilipinas and wish that we will be successful in 2023. Yan po mga kaibigan, panayam kay Coach Tab Baldwin, head coach ng Ateneo and of course program director ng Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas sa paghahanda natin ng national team patungo sa World Cup na 2023. A lot of questions being asked in that particular interview, and we're looking for those answers. At least marami tayong oras para magpaghandaan ang ating hinaharap sa 2023. Alright, bago po tayo magtapos, gusto ko po magpasalamat sa lahat ng tumutok ngayon, lalong-lalo na si Coach Ryan Gregorio. Coach Ray, salamat sa muling pagtutok. Ayan si Coach Tab. Siguradong si Coach Ryan kasama sa pagplano niyan. Coach Ryan, maraming salamat sa muling pagsubaybay. Gusto ko rin pong batiin si Attorney Tony Ligon na lagi nating suki dito sa Power and Play, at si Ricky Campo, isa po nating kaibigan na laging nakatutok dito po sa ating programa. Alright, di paano, tapos na naman ang isang Sabado ng Power and Play. Magsama-sama po ulit tayo sa susunod na linggo. Ingat-ingat lagi Bagamat bumaba ang ating mga kaso, sabi natin patuloy pong nandyan ang virus, wag po tayong magpabaya. At lagi nating sinasabi tuwing Sabado, bawal ang masungit. And of course, sa lahat po ng ating gawain, ad maiorem Dei gloriam, all for the greater glory of God. Happy Sports Weekend, mga kapatid.